Thank you for being here on this beautiful sunny Scottsdale day, which is perfect to go along with our topic today. So today is all about wide open spaces, and we've got a wonderful panel. We had Martin Blundell, but he has been under the weather, so we grabbed Matthew Sievers to fill in. Woo-hoo! So that we had to have a guy on the panel about skies, big sky. Hey, Rick.
I'll let him out of the trunk eventually.
He stuck Martin in a trunk. No. Can I have this microphone too? Yeah. So, right next to me is the beautiful Tina Roy from right here in Scottsdale, Arizona. Her paintings behind her. This, of course, is Matthew Sievers. And right next to him is the beautiful Becky Pashia from Durango, actually Bayfield, Colorado, the Durango area. So I'm happy that we have such a beautiful sky today to be the backdrop for our talk. And it really is about, these are, technically we have landscapes, but these three, and Martin Blundell, we'll show you where to find his work later, you really capture the essence of the sky. And Becky, you really are, you paint the atmospheric, what do you call it?
Yes, I paint the atmosphere. You said it exactly right.
Okay.
I always have, I've always loved to think of it as I'm painting what is between me and what I'm looking at. Because the air, I mean, we're all in the air right now. We're in the skies all around us. It's not just at the top of the paper like a second grader draws, you know? So, oh, here, now you can hear me. So, I just think
wait,
that,
are you saying it's wrong to just do the top of the paper?
well, I think that's just kind of a really cool graphic statement, but yeah, I mean, the sky is everywhere, all the way down to our toes. So I just like to include that in my painting. So I kind of made up a technique when I was 21, and I'm still trying to perfect it with a big spatula, and I just kind of shimmy my spatula around on a slippery surface with that paint and try to capture the essence of air. So I try to paint kind of the weather in the painting, if that makes any sense. But
That's a beautiful introduction to your work. Thank you. What about you, Matt? What draws you to the big sky?
So my first studio, we found this house that had an aviary in the basement, and my ceiling was only like 8 feet high. So anything that was larger, as you were talking about painting the bottom third, it would all have kind of the same motion as I'm bending down and trying to paint, and then this, maybe the last little corner would go this direction. Try and do it left-handed. And eventually I got a real studio with an easel where I could move it up and I could, you know, focus on the bottom without laying on my belly to paint the bottom of a large painting. My idea of when I paint a sky is I like really big blending marks. I want you to see my emotion. I want to scrape into that and then blend it. And then once all of these colors have been put in as emotionally as I can, to mix a new tone on my palette that blends the two, and it's a transition, and then in one mark try and put that color down and leave it. And maybe come back with brushes, and I love variety of texture. I want your eye to move around the sky like it would when you're looking for, you know, oh, I see a puppy in the clouds. And then just have a focal point that all of those bring your eye into, despite all the turbulent textures going on.
So after this, we all need to go and see where the puppy is in these paintings. So
there's a puppy in every painting.
That's inside. So, all right. So, and Tina, your skies and clouds are just captivating. And I know there's stories behind all of them, but what drew you to wanting to paint big sky?
Thank you. I really find my peace of mind outside and being outside in nature. And I was born and raised here in Scottsdale. And as a kid, it's growing up in the 80s here, it's hard to imagine how much wild desert was really all around us, and that was our playground, and how comfortable I felt there, and how you learn from a young age to respect the landscape because it can kill you. Probably won't, but it could. But it's also so beautiful and so dramatic. And as I got older, even, is that okay? I love hiking and going out into the mountains, even the McDowell's right here. I've been all around in those mountains, and it's just very peaceful. But at the same time, I think that life is reflected in the skies here, especially during our summer when we get these dramatic storms, which is what I really enjoy portraying and capturing, is you have this whole series of emotions that goes through the sky that we can also, that echoes in us. And it's trying to capture that energy. This painting is called Between Silence and Storm, and there is always this second where just the whole desert goes quiet if you're really out in the desert, when one of these storms is approaching, and everything goes quiet and the birds stop, and then it's like, the whole sky is just electric and it explodes, and it's so exciting, and there's just so much tension and energy, and so I really like to try to capture that.
I love that. I like that you've got a little bit different style from what I've seen before going on here, and I love it. What has made you sort of dabble your toes into that style?
Well, I thought it was really interesting to try to walk the line between abstract painting and representational landscape, and so that was really the goal, especially with this painting. And you can see in some of the paintings sort of leading up to it how I get closer and closer, and I feel that I succeeded the most in this painting, where it could almost be an abstract painting, but then you realize that it's actually this beautiful skyscape and there's clouds and mountains, and so it's just fun trying to walk that line.
Awesome. So I'm gonna ask you about some of your other pieces that aren't here later, but we'll come back around. So do you have a favorite, for all of you, do you have a favorite place? Obviously you're very Arizona, because we have it all here. Favorite places to paint, and I'd love to, if you feel up to sharing the story about the one stage right.
Well, I lived in Kansas from age 15 to a couple years ago. And I can't even tell you. When I was 15, I also did my first painting. So when I was learning to see like an artist, which is a weird way to see, I was actually looking at the Flint Hills, the blowing grass, and just giant skies. And so the clouds were everything to me. It was like so cool. And I was raised in a very optimistic, loving home, of course, and not of course, but luckily. And I was kind of raised to believe there's always infinite possibilities, in everything we do. And I just look at that sky, and oh my gosh, every night we get a brand new masterpiece painted for us, and it changes. How many of us take a picture? Oh, that was the best one. Oh gosh, 5 minutes later. Oh shoot, no, this is better. I should take it out. It goes on and on and on and on. So when I think I'm stuck and I can't think of something to paint, or just anything in life, and you feel kind of stuck, it's like, oh my gosh, just look to the sky. There's infinite possibilities, and it will never repeat itself. There's no excuse for us to ever feel stuck. So that has kind of become a mantra for my life, and I do have to say, I think a lot of it was Kansas. I think it was that drive from Kansas City to K-State, nothing else to look at, and watching the light change, the Flint Hills. I don't know, it really taught me to appreciate the sky, and I just love to paint it. I think it looks beautiful in homes. It's like adding a window to your house. And that painting over there is called Passing Clouds, because they were just moving so fast at the moment. They were breaking apart, that first one. And it was super cool yesterday. A woman I'd never met came up to me, and she just was really drawn to that piece, and she was asking me about it. She just kept coming back to it, and then she walked the tent, and she came back again. She goes, I think I'm just going to probably have to call you about that one and get that one. I said, well, where do you live? And she said, well, I live in Kansas City. I said, you're kidding, where in Kansas City? And she says, well, I live in Prairie Village, Kansas. And I'm like, I lived in Prairie Village, Kansas. And then she told me she lives a half a mile from the high school where I painted my first painting. So that painting is going home. And I just thought that was the coolest story, that she was drawn to it first, and then that's going home. So I'm excited that she will own that one. Anyway, it was just a really cool story.
I love that. That's so great. And how many of you have driven across Kansas or Nebraska and it's like sky and that? But then there's some rolling hills usually. Yeah. So yeah, we do big skies in the Midwest too. But do you have a favorite place, or do you make places up to paint?
So I would say Arizona skies have always just hit me over the head. It's, I have 4 boys. We love to mountain bike and hike, and it only takes 1 or 2 clouds. And even when there isn't a cloud, and it gets that amazing green to the rainbow effect, where on the horizon all the way around you see that yellow and pink and teal, and there's not a cloud in the sky, and there's all this color from the dust and the smog, and it's beautiful. And when the sunset does happen in Idaho, when those pinks come up, they're so cotton candy, where here they are so vibrant. I've seen blood red skies that I wouldn't paint because it looks like there should be a mystical dragon flying out of my painting. And you almost have to dial it back at times with some of these Arizona skies for my own sensibilities. And I would say I have a really large series right now that's based on that idea of being away from the city, and you've got this amazing Arizona sky and a few cactus that you're hanging out with, and they're kind of sentinels overlooking Phoenix, and you're looking down at this just lit up like a jewelry case of cars and traffic, and you're away from it. And you're smelling the desert, and you see this cool, like the cool air coming in with the clouds. Definitely my biggest inspiration, though the first sky I ever painted was a really interesting exercise that I didn't even realize was being such a difficult exercise. It was a pastel drawing that my dad had of a ocean scene that was a big sky and a big wave crashing into this rock and carving out and going into the caves near Carmel. And I had my oil paint and canvas, and I'm trying to get the paint to soften on the edges. And it's like, how did this guy pull this off? And I'm trying to let it dry and then use a brush and drag it gently and let it catch. And then after Dad did the whole critique, he's like, oh yeah, by the way, that's chalk and pastels that you're trying to mimic. But a great exercise for any oil painter, trying to make your edges look like a pastel. It's not easy, yeah.
It's true, very true. Have you used pastels ever?
Growing up, I have always done art ever since I can remember, and I have played with all of the art supplies available to me. I love, chalk pastels, oil pastels. I haven't recently, although I have been playing around with some charcoal at home, and maybe we'll see that on the walls next year. But yeah, I love playing with different. In fact, I have to stay focused. I have to tell myself to stay focused because it's very easy for me to want to incorporate all kinds of things into my work, and especially being here, when you see all the different, well, that gold leaf looks cool, maybe I could put some gold leaf on or something.
Inspiration abounds.
One thing I did start doing last year, which was an idea I had and has turned out to be really fun, is because I also, besides doing oil pastel, chalk pastel, charcoal painting, I also like to do embroidery and knitting and crocheting and just basically anything I can get my hands on. And I started taking silk thread and embroidering through the painted canvas. They're circles, circle canvases.
No.
You need Adderall.
Oh, sorry. I do need Adderall. what would I do if I didn't have crafting? And so I have been embroidering silk thread through the canvas, and because the idea was like, I'm painting these big clouds with this really intense thunderstorm. How do I make that even more? Like, how do I express that emotion of that, the power of the storm even more? And so that's what I came to, was embroidering silk thread through the canvas so it pours out of the canvas. The rain continues outside of the border. And then I hang little semi-precious stones from it as little raindrops. And so that has been really fun. So I love playing around and experimenting. And like I said, I have to like rein it in on myself and stay focused, because otherwise, yes, I'll just be like wanting to do all the things.
Well, you do them all well.
Thank you.
Yes, but you, particularly your storm clouds, are captivating. So you kind of touched on that in the beginning about the way that the whole atmosphere changes from this quiet to, you've got a really dark gray, beautiful piece over there. Do you like working in that tone on tone?
So it's interesting, I always love challenging myself, and after working with pretty vibrant colors for most of last year, I was like, well, can I do it with no color? And so I did just black and white. And yeah, it's really fun. I mean, it turned out, I'm really happy with it. It's a really interesting piece. Again, it just comes from this feeling of like, well, I did that, let's try this, and let's see if we can represent it, you know, geometrically. Let's see if we can represent it, you know, realistically. Let's see if we can do it with color and without color. It's just, there's so much out there in the sky. As Becky was saying, it's endless inspiration. So I can never imagine getting bored of painting skies. There's so many ways to represent the emotion, and so I just like trying to do that.
And again, you do it very well. What do you hope people will feel when they see your work, each of you? Like what emotion are you hoping to evoke?
I want them to just break down in tears.
Or the puppies.
Yeah. Oh, the puppy and your colors, and we're taking it home. And it is quite amazing. And you know, I joke, but we've all experienced that, where someone sees a painting and it just brings out emotion, and it is the most wonderful thing when it moves them. And, you know, we've done pieces that we regretted selling. They meant a lot to us, and they were it was like the breakthrough in our career, and it took us on a new direction, and we looked at it and thought, oh man, this is something, and I gotta pay my bills. And we start one inspired by that piece, or at least this happens to me almost every time. That teepee I'm working on right there, I'm like, oh man, I did something special, and it's a new thing. And I'll take it off the easel and set it to the side and start sketching the next one. And I'm still looking at my last painting like, you're still my favorite. And then I keep going and drawing and painting, and before I know it, it's color, value, shapes, and I'm going somewhere cool. And that one needs to grow up and get married and get out of the house. And it's an amazing experience. In fact, this sky I did on this teepee piece, I haven't painted a moon in a long time. And there's low clouds on the left that are catching the moonlight it has a lot of white in it. And then the teepee, of course, the light in the teepee is cadmium yellow. So what's really fun with this piece is homes are lit naturally with very white daylight. And all the light coming through the windows here, it has so much white and blue in that lighting, where the light in our booths, or a lamp in your home, or if you were to light a painting, is very yellow. So a lot of people will see me turning my lights on and off in my booth. And this piece, I'm really excited about, because the moon will have yellow light on it with the teepee, and then in the lower light, natural light will hit it, and you'll get the white and it will change drastically. So that's one of my favorite things to do when I paint skies, is to have a contrast. The sun being yellow, and then I love putting my city lights, my distant houses with the white. So the two react differently depending on natural light or artificial.
I would just have to say, I also, of course, you just want to move people, but I love making people wonder. That's the bottom line of who I am. Everything I've done my whole life, any book, the little kids book I write, anything, I just want kids to wonder. I want people to wonder. So when you look at one of my paintings, like this one here is called The Day's Finale, and it was a little more later in the sunset than I usually paint. The sun, and I actually showed the sun, and I hung it on my wall, and Susan actually walked by the next day, and she goes, oh, I love that. Did you see the moon last night? It was huge. And I loved that it reminded her of the moon instead of the sun. And to me, that is such a sunset. But that's when people walk up to my art, and I'll never forget, I had a gallery in Kansas City, and I had this little painting of, it was kind of like a little shore scene. And this man walked up to it, and he goes, oh my gosh, that is Norway. And I just said, it is. Oh my God. And he bought it. And he knew I was kidding, but art, I love it when it triggers something in you. You know, it's like a memory in you is what I'm trying to trigger. I'm not trying to show you where I've been or show you that I got the best shot ever of the sunset last night, you know. It's just really more to trigger something or make you remember something. So I have had people cry in front of my art. I've cried in front of art. It can turn you inside out. And that's pretty magical, but hopefully overall it's uplifting.
I love that. And I was going to ask each of you, I still want your answer to this question, but I was going to ask you sunset or sunrise, but whatever we want to see it as. And
Whatever you think.
you know, when the moon's coming up over here and the sun's going down over there, if you only look that way and you don't look over here and see the mountains with the color there, you're missing half of the sunset. So that's always exciting. Okay, and you?
Talking about the feeling that I hope to sort of provoke in people, being out in the desert for me is almost, I equate it to like a spiritual experience.
Sorry. I'm the coach. Hold it closer.
So I equate being out in the desert to like a spiritual experience, and you know, it's both grounding and infinite, the feelings that we have being out there, and so I think that's what I want to share with people, is this feeling of awe and this feeling of reverence and just of something bigger than ourselves. And yeah, that's what I hope to capture.
I was thinking about when you're talking about when the rain's going to start. I don't know what we're getting at. How many of you have been in the desert when it just starts to rain and you can smell the creosote and I feel that when I look at your paintings. I feel that whole entire experience, not just the visual, but the complete experience.
Well, sometimes I started painting not by an image, but by an emotion and a memory. So I had one time before I had children, and I used to run free in the mountains a lot. I love you, baby. And I was actually out here in the McDowells. It was about sunset. I said before I had kids, I never saw a sunrise, and now I see lots of them. But sunset used to be my favorite time of the day. And I was out on the loop trail, and no one was out on the trail. There was a big storm in the distance that I completely thought was gonna be fine, like no problem. And then before I knew it, it was right upon me. And if you're from here, if you've spent time here, you know the rain can come down just in sheets. And it was funny because, you know, you have the mountains in perspective, and you could just see like one mountain disappear, another mountain disappear, like as the rain was coming at me. And I just took off. I've never run so fast in my life, and got back to my car right as it hit. And it was so exciting and scary and awesome. And so that was a little bit of the inspiration for this painting.
We were a couple years ago up in Kanab, Utah. Have any of you been to Kanab? Very, very beautiful red rocks and all that. And we went out on these quads, and we rode out, and we were in this canyon, and all of a sudden it's like, oh, here comes the rain, and we're like, oh. because you know how the washes can come up. But what was really exhilarating about that was kind of, again, this sort of thing where we could smell it, we could feel it, and then we would hear the echo of the rain off the canyon walls. And it was like, whoa, so amazing. And again, to be able to captivate and capture that sort of atmospheric feel, I mean, I love that you can give us extra windows in our house. You know, this is really, it brings the joy.
I always say, if when someone's looking at my work, they'll say, is that sunrise or sunset? And it just depends on if you're holding coffee or a glass of wine. It's like, it could go either way. But it is funny how much the paintings can change in lighting and your mood and time of day, but it is so nice when you're painting a sky piece to go through your photos and feel the inspiration you had. I never got chased by rain clouds, but I just don't like to run. I speed walk downhill.
Okay, I like it.
Yeah,
Depends on if you got a cup of coffee or
cup of coffee or a glass of wine. That's how you know.
Or where do you want it to be instead of where is it? Yeah. But that's really, I mean, we need you. We need artists to help us keep that beauty flowing and the joy. So I like to ask my question this year is, what brings you the most joy about what you do? Oh.
I am not your traditional artist in a way that I do not draw first. I never have. I smack it on there, and the first 45 minutes is so much fun. I have no idea really what I'm painting. Normally, sometimes I look at a photo for reference and put it away, so I have to go from the memory, and sometimes I just go. And so I get that background, that atmospheric layer on first, and that is just bliss. That is just my most fun moment, because it could be, again, infinite possibilities. What is this one going to be? And I just feel like they come through me. I don't really do them. And it's like fun. It's like, wow. The hard part's finishing them. Then it matters. But the beginning is so fun. I have to say starter painting. I love starter painting.
I love that. So I have a big family in Idaho, and I don't have a real job, so I'm the first person we call to move a couch. I'm the first person who, it's like, man, we really need help shoveling out this potato cellar. Call Matt. He doesn't have a real job. He's always free, And what I love about my job is that I would say 80% of the time I feel like I'm only doing the one thing I would ever want to do. So I'm a horrible golf buddy. On the third hole, I'm like taking pictures, and I got a painting to go do. See ya. And it's painting is the zone I get into when I'm fishing, and I'm like, man, I wish I had my kit here and I'll do a little plein air painting. Besides, we ain't catching. I see you, youngin'. And it's just the absolute best. Of course, the other 20% leads into the things that make money. But anyone who follows me on Instagram realizes I kind of just do what I want, and it's very few posts on Instagram, and I'm most likely painting a painting at that time.
So like, you're just there for the scenery, whether you're golfing or fishing or whatever. You could make a bumper sticker that says, I'm just here for the scenery.
I'm here for the scenery, I'd rather be painting.
Very good, very good.
I don't know if you guys have heard of the flow state, people talking about being in flow. I think that's a lot of what I chase. So, it's great when I'm in my studio and I have all day uninterrupted and I'm painting And then all of a sudden, I don't know, maybe, I have to set my alarm so that I remember to pick up my children. My alarm will go off, and it's like, I realize that I'm cold, I'm hungry, I have to pee. I haven't stopped in, 5 hours because you're in that flow state, and it's nice there. It's really nice. Yeah, the whole world just disappears and you're in flow and it's good. So I do chase that a lot.
That's great. So you're not like baking cookies at the same time because they would all burn?
Oh, they would burn.
Yeah.
They would.
I like that. Flow state.
Tina, I just want you to know that never goes away, that 3 o'clock thing. My kids are way out of the house now, and still at 3 o'clock I stop painting and clean up. Why? I can't paint after 3 o'clock. I have to get the kids. Time to be a mom. Yeah. So that just never goes away. I'm warning you.
I start at 3 in the afternoon and end at 3 o'clock at night. And all of those are sunsets because I'm dead asleep when the sun comes.
All right, I got you. So what about night skies? I have a favorite color, and I call it Arizona just after sunset. And it's kind of that blue-green, you were kind of talking about it earlier, it's like turquoise blue-green magic that I don't see that color anywhere else. Yeah. So, you guys like night skies? Anyone?
I do love night skies. I consider myself a road trip photographer, and that's where most of my sky inspiration comes from, and I have to just give props to my husband really quick because I have to be the most annoying companion on a road trip. He is constantly going out of the way, trying to get the right angle, trying to do something. And he gets so frustrated with me. But anyway, you can't take pictures at night of the night skies. So I never do paint a night sky. So it's interesting you say that. Do you, Matt?
I think that's a new challenge then. I bet you could.
I had someone ask me if I would paint them a moon set, and they sent me a picture of the moon setting over their pool. But it would just be kind of blues with the white on the water. I was like, I wonder what I could do with that. I don't know. Interesting. I don't know.
So I go camping a lot, and sometimes we even go camping during this show. So my first year, I don't know if you know this, I worked all day, drove out, had dinner and made s'mores by the campfire, slept in a tent, came right back here and worked, went back to the campsite, and I did that again this year. And it's really fun camping with the full moon, especially here in the desert where it's so flat. I mean, in winter, I'm just camping the McDowell's because it's too cold anywhere else. So you have, that flat desert, and the moon shadows are so cool. They're so strong. You can really see. And so I have been thinking about doing a moon shadow piece. I did a little moon piece my first year, and it sold.
I like that.
I haven't done a ton of night skies, to be honest, and it's funny that I was just working on this one today. The last time I painted a moonlit sky, it was a grove of aspen trees with the light coming between the trees and the snow being a really rich blue and then that white moonlight. And it's still one of those paintings that I want to go back and try it again and learn and grow from because it was so exciting. It's interesting though, painting moonlight, how white the light is in the references. It's like blue light. Which was kind of fun to push the whole palette in this piece in a blue-green tone, and then let it cascade just a little bit around the edges of the teepee as I have the moon further back. It's above the teepee, but I wanted it to be small enough, that it's backlighting that teepee, and then letting the warm light, the campfire light, hit some of the grass in front of it. And it was really fun to paint, and really happy with it.
Yay. And it's right around the corner there, so we can see that along with the puppies. So, I had something really profound to ask you now. Where have you not painted that you would like to paint? Normandy? Norway?
Norway, obviously.
Norway.
Where have I not?
I mean, let's talk about planning a trip that is research that we can write off and go enjoy something. Where would you like to go?
I would like to see the Aurora Borealis. And I went to Iceland in the winter several years ago, and I did not see it. It was not there then. You can't put it on your calendar. You don't know when it's going to come. But I would love to plan a trip to see the Aurora Borealis and then to be able to paint that. That'd be really cool.
I served a LDS mission in Madagascar for 2 years, and I had done some painting with Dad, but you're really focused on, service and gospel. And I had not painted enough to have the confidence I do now. There's a beach that it's called Anusi Bay, and it's black lava rock sand. And there's never anyone out there because that sand is hot as hell. It just absorbs the heat, right? And even though it's lava rock, it's not like too hot to go out on. But the contrast and the way waves and color were coming up on the beach, that would be a top one for me, especially where, back then it was disposable cameras, and that roll of film, I don't even have the pictures. I can find a few online, but it's like, I want to get back there. And I've been painting sunsets or sunrises for a gallery I show in Carmel, and getting to push and play with all of that for the last few years, I'm really excited to go back to Africa and paint some of my favorite spots that I was able to visit.
This is tricky for me because it doesn't really matter the location as much as I think there would have to be water involved. Because I love a reflection, and I get to paint the sky twice. And that's super, those are always my favorite paintings, because when they've got, but what is it reflecting besides the sky? I don't know. I love Minnesota with the trees reflecting. I love mountains. I love anything like that. So I don't think I have to probably go that far away to paint my dream location. So many of mine seriously come out of my imagination that sometimes it's a good book that will plant paintings in my mind, It's like, ooh, that sounds cool. I'm gonna paint that place. I'm sure it's nothing like it really was. But
we can't all live in Durango.
And that is interesting because my studio faces towards the reverse sunset. And I never would know. It is so beautiful. I would never know that there's actually a sunset on the other side of the mountain. Yeah, I'm so happy with just my little reverse sunsets. It's funny. I realized that like a year after I lived there, I'm like, I'm not even seeing the sunset. But it's okay.
Yeah, we don't have a PA system anymore in the tent, but we do sunset alerts throughout the show because, you walk out there, every color of the rainbow in the sunset, but again, I remember I had to pull over one time. I was driving on Hayden, and with a moonrise, it was a full moon, and the purple and all the colors. So reverse sunsets are amazing. I'm not sure you get the same thing from the sunrise. I'll have to get my coffee out and check that out. But I love that what you all have shared about too is just infinite possibilities and the inspiration that comes from that. You could paint that every day, and it could look different every day.
Yeah, the sky does, look different every day. Although, it's funny, people who aren't from Arizona, don't really understand the phrase, the monotony of a blue sky. People from the Pacific Northwest are like, ooh, I feel real bad for you. But it's true, there's months where it's we don't see a single cloud. I see one little cotton ball in the sky, and I'm like, oh my God, it's coming. It's a cloud. I think that also helps make it even more dramatic in the monsoons, because I'm so thirsty for it. And how it connects to the earth is so thirsty for it. Our land is so thirsty for the water and the rain. And so I see rain as being very hopeful, and these big thunder clouds are dramatic and can maybe look scary, but they also carry this element of hope because it's rain and we always need rain. And so there's always a sense of relief when it rains here, even if it's super dramatic. So I like that.
I was just thinking about the endless sunsets that we're going to be inspired to paint, and how much they change, and you could snap every few minutes and have a different palette. And looking at Tina's work back here, how she has taken such a soft, organic element and pushed angles and repeated patterns, and how far she can take that. And I was lucky enough to do the podcast for American Art Collector, and one of the big questions they had was about AI influencing artists and how we would use it and how we're going to push ourselves or avoid it for fear of what it might do to our work. And it's interesting that if you think about the inspiration we get from a sky, and the way I see it, inspiration from the great creator, and that he made it first, and then it moves you, and then you get inspired, and you decide where to take that. And I love that this is inspired from probably this pink rain coming down. Is that the one that chased you off the mountain? Yeah? That it doesn't, as soon as the human hand and emotion and hopes and dreams and sorrow and I gotta pay my taxes, I could tell when you painted the mountain you were thinking about taxes. Yeah. And you bring it all into the painting. And I have really no fear of AI being anything more than offering up something that you then take and you make it your own, with all of that being applied. And it's been a really cool tool that I would say most artists are using now, no matter whether it's music, writing, anything. But it's not something that in the art world and creativity I feel is to be worried about whatsoever.
Yeah, I completely agree. And I heard that the most valuable jobs in 10 years from now will be those that are done by hands, because it'll be so rare. And I had my first little niece was born last year, and I made a little embroidery, of course, working with my hands again. Did a little embroidery with her name and some flowers. And they sent me a picture of it hanging on her wall. And I just thought, by the time she's a grandmother, her grandkids will be like, someone made this with their hands, and it'll be like amazing. So I think, maybe with AI, as long as we keep learning how to use it as a tool, it will never replace it, and it will almost make what we do more valuable.
It's true. And the human connection.
Yeah.
We crave connectivity, and art has a way of bringing that right to life in front of our eyes.
And just soul. I mean, art is soul. And I just, like every sky, like in life, you have to have shadows to appreciate the light. You have to have bad times to appreciate the good. You have to be sad to know what happy means. And I think we can determine which sunset is worth painting that has that soul in it that's gonna rock the world. How can AI ever know that? So I just have no interest in it. I'm so old school. I need a candle and my spatula and I can paint. I don't even need technology, truly. It's pathetic how old school I am. But
I love that.
I would have to say it's kind of funny because I enjoy a challenge. And I did a little painting, and I always reference it as if it's something I'm going to do one day. And it was a dumpster in this alleyway in a city that was overflowing, and there were wet puddles on the ground, and some of it was reflecting in those puddles, and it was dark with the light coming through, and it hit the edge of the dumpster, and there's like sludge. And do not back up here sign. And it was something about how it all came together. I hit my flow state, and it was a very beautiful painting of a very disgusting thing. So,
I'm a little worried about you, Matt.
It's about finding the soul in the setting. That if the lighting is right, no, it's that it's like a great Tarantino scene. It might be someone really getting hurt, but he filmed it really well. And you can draw inspiration and find the soul in any setting. It's just it may take some work. Like, it may be AI inspired and take more work to get the soul out of it, but and I know Becky. I know you would get the soul out of any inspiration because it's you.
Can I actually just go back and touch on really quickly what you were saying about when we're talking about the value of handmade things? And I do think as well, and we've talked about this a lot in this tent since the show has started, the value of these spaces where we all come together in person. And in this world that's just increasingly online and where people are more isolated, there's so much value in these shows, in you guys coming and showing up, in all of us being here and showing up and conversing and laughing and criticizing and talking about the art. It's really amazing, and I think again it's more and more special. We're just adding value with every year that we get more technologically advanced. This becomes that much more valuable.
Yes. True. And actually, one of the co-founders of ChatGPT, Zach Cass, I saw him at a symposium, and he said he truly, first of all, he said he wouldn't let anybody younger than a teenager have a phone. But he said he believes that the more that AI will replace jobs and free up more time, that the more and more people will crave community and connectivity. So we are definitely in the right place here, connecting and building a great community. I wanted to just ask a little bit about tools besides AI. Your palette knife?
And some brushes.
And some brushes. And then also, do you guys do color studies before you paint, or do you just you just know, your brush knows what it's doing? By the way, I have to re-share your fun video that you sent me over the summer of first coffee, a day in the life of Becky as she's painting.
It said, buying art should be fun, and so should creating it. And that was just my slogan thing. I just showed you what it was like in my studio.
So, tools are palette knives, some brushes, and do you have
David Jackson makes fun of my paintbrush. She says it's the worst, crappiest thing, and I totally need to throw that thing away. It is worn down to the plastic nub, and I have 3 bristles on it for this one. But there's a step in my process where I need a really kind of stiff brush that I can just kind of merge blobs. And it's just the bomb. I can't replace it. I can't find anything that does it as good. So anyway, I do have a few brushes I use too, but when I get out my brushes, I usually ruin my painting. My knife, my spatula thing is what works best for me. Because I don't want to paint detail. If I wanted to paint detail, it'd be different.
Right.
I love finding new tools and seeing what they'll do for my work. And it's funny that I tend to lean into the tools that at first were the hardest for me to use. That big blue painting of mine up behind the magazine desk, I would say 80% of that was done with a roller. And I use all sorts of different rollers. They're called brayers. They're used for screen printing, and they're rubber, and that is painted on wood panel. And when I switched to wood panel, the relationship of a palette knife on canvas, it bows, it has give. And then I started painting on wood, and I'm like, this palette knife isn't working right. So I started finding soft rubber tools. I started actually using like a makeup wedge remover and cutting it and scraping, and then credit cards, and then eventually these pottery tools that as clay goes around on a potter's wheel, you'd carve the clay, and it's got a nice rounded area to reach in and do the inside rounded spot. And they wear down where they get a nice sharp edge. And every time I can't find it, I'm like, someone came through and stole my chiseled, sharpened pottery tool. I'm so worried someone took it, you know. Yeah, and then I find it, and it's like, whew. One of my main marks I also like to make on a painting is to try and keep the paint wet and work fast enough that I can carve into the piece. And I'm trying to mix color that if I scrape it back, the gesso, the white surface shines through, or apply a color that I can make it transparent and maybe roll across the top. In fact, Anton Knowles was here last year, and he was painting with foam rollers that were like 6 inches wide, and I'm like, oh, I love that, because it's unexpected. You think about the trillions of paintings that have a rhythm to them, and it's brushwork. The rhythm is brushes, and my sensibilities is that if I did something with too much brush, to pick up a squeegee that you'd use in the shower and scrape through it, and then turn it sideways and do a chop line, and then maybe sit back and see what I can do with it from that point moving forward.
That's great.
That sounds really fun. I love using brushes, old school style, pretty boring. Going back to the question of what is like my favorite part of painting, I also love pushing paint around a canvas with a brush and all the different sizes and shapes, and I get a lot of joy out of that. So I've been sticking with brushes, but maybe in the future I'll try a spatula or something.
Well, and the way you've incorporated the silk and the gemstones is so beautiful. Rain coming right off the canvas. So, how about, do you guys ever get tired? Are you all right-handed?
Okay, as I'm aging, I'm so paranoid now about my arms shaking when I'm painting, because I go crazy painting sometimes. I mean, at home I like dance while I paint, it's so much fun, but if there's like people behind me at this show watching me paint, I'm always like, oh gosh, is my arm doing that again? So I need to lift weights before I paint in front of people. But anyway, it's, yes, my arm gets very tired, and then you go to the left hand and it gets very abstract.
I love it.
Last year I had a really bad shoulder injury. I fell off my motorbike and it just wasn't healing up. I was, doing my physical therapy and getting acupuncture, and it was time to start painting for Celebration because it was July. We start preparing really early in the summer for this show, and I could not use my right arm. It just hurt so bad, and I did a whole series of paintings left-handed, and then when I wanted to get in and start doing details, I'm holding my arm and I'm signing my name like this, until eventually I got it back. Yay. Yay for right arm. And it's interesting though, the ability to paint is, it's really all in the eye. Color, value, hue, color harmonies, what your sensibility is, what your palette is. I would say all three of us, we could hang one of our paintings on like the far, far fence, and from that distance, just from the way we see color, the way we mix color, that I'd know whose it is. And
Exactly.
yeah, it's very little about if you're right-handed or left-handed. This just happens to be, I can paint a lot more paintings a lot quicker with my right hand. So they are all painted right-handed, but if I lost this arm, would get a good painting. Would get a good painting done, yeah.
Well, last week we had kind of an extensive discussion about, taking care of you're the $1 million racehorse, and so you got to take care of yourself. And part of what prompted that question is, this is kind of weird, but sitting next to Matt and I'm looking at these muscles and, you know.
The painting muscles, I also have.
Yeah, you have them. Let me see. What about you?
No, I don't.
You do. You do, though. Like you've trained your arm.
Yes, maybe. And I don't really get tired, but I have noticed that I alter my behavior more. So I used to be a pretty hardcore rock climber, and now I back off a little bit because any sort of finger or hand injury I know that is going to restrict my, furthering my career. So it has changed a little bit for that.
Or make you left-handed.
But you have to use both hands when you rock climb.
Oh, yeah.
Like your left-handed painting. I don't want to do that.
Well, stay off the rocks. All right. You guys are great. This has been fun. Thank you. Yeah, but I would love to see if anybody in the audience has any questions. And if so, okay, hang on.
When I walk around, I see a lot of people with photos, and they're painting what they see on their phone. Do you just make up things every now and then? Like, okay, I just want to let it rip, and I'm not going to look at anything, and here's what it's going to be?
I work from source like images, and it's very exciting that action that comes that's somewhere between what you see and what you produce, because there is a lot. I give myself a lot of room to be creative in that moment. So I have an idea. I look at my source material as like an idea of where I'm going, but it's not the master plan. It's just an idea of where I'm going, and that allows me to then play and sort of do what I want. And because it's like a conversation with the painting, you're in conversation with that surface, with the paint, with your brushes. And so sometimes things happen, I guess Bob Ross would say happy accidents, and you go like, oh, that's cool. And it maybe wasn't what you intended to do, but then you work with it and it's fun. So I like to leave room for that, for sure.
I definitely don't look at the picture very often. I do at the beginning a little bit, just to, maybe for composition more than anything. I can always remember color, but I struggle with composition sometimes. So I would reference it more for that, and then I actually turn it over so I won't look at it again. And then I try to paint so that, because again, I'm not trying to paint something specific, I'm trying to trigger a memory in someone else. So I want it to be a river, but is that the Snake River? Sure. I mean, that's not the point of my painting, is the place as much as just the feeling it brings out of you. So,
Norway.
Yeah.
Norway work.
Matt's made a couple of references to the financial things, and I'm curious for all three of you, how you're all professional artists, but you're here to sell your art. That's the purpose. How do you deal with the struggle between what inspires you, what you've talked about today, and the fact that you've ultimately got to sell it? Do you struggle with what people might want to see rather than what you want to do?
First of all, I think of the transaction as connection, not art for money, money for art. I think of it as connection, first of all, across the board. So you're connecting with people, and for me especially, I like to think about spreading joy. I get so much joy from being out in our amazing landscape here, and so I try to capture that, and then I just imagine how much joy it brings the people who have it in their home. And so it's like a transaction of joy more than money, and it's connection. So I think about that. As far as we do need to sell, that is also important. I have a good example here because I did a few landscapes that have very, very vibrant colors, and not everybody is ready for like hot pink in their living room. And when I did this piece, I was very intentional with the color palette. I planned the whole color palette out before I started because I wanted to see if I could do something a little bit more neutral while still holding on to my sort of signature style, and it is still colorful, but it's yeah, it might work better in someone's house who prefers neutrals. I think the line is always, people are thirsty for authenticity, and so as long as you're staying authentic and true to yourself, I love trying new things, as I've said, and so I love pushing myself and saying like, okay, let's see what it would look like now, yeah, with these more subdued colors or these more neutral colors. And because again, and part of that decision was not everybody wants such vibrant colors or has the color scheme in their house, and I do want to sell. So it's kind of, yeah, it's like a balance, but I think as long as you stay true to yourself and you like it, then, I'm proud of all the pieces because it comes from me.
Yeah.
Where I was talking about showing in Carmel, it's kind of interesting because there's definitely a market-driven inspiration. Like, if I only have paintings of the Eiffel Tower, I better be selling my artwork in front of the Eiffel Tower, And I want to paint sunsets over the ocean. That's why I show in Carmel. They're willing to show something that I like to paint, I want to paint. However, at the same time, my booth would be full of nudes if I felt like I could pull it off.
Figurative.
Yeah.
Figurative work.
Yes. Well, it would be mostly the ladies. So.
Well, let's
One
get
of
them
these
out.
things is more beautiful than the other, let's admit.
Yeah, there you go.
And that's actually a series that I have started. In fact, I would say 10 years ago, my entire booth was the figure. It was reclined models, falling asleep, reading a book, half clothed. And it was one of my favorite series ever. I pretty much skipped everything I was doing that summer to really bring a great body of work. Oh, man. About halfway through the show, I started painting landscapes so I could make some money. But the landscapes have always been there. It's just interesting. Our careers do have this kind of ebb and flow. You get inspiration. I would say the last time I really... Oh, thanks for being here, Ray. I would say one of the... I've painted teepees in the past, but it's been a long time. And I've been hesitant to do them because I show in Mountain Trails Gallery, and they have an artist in Jackson, Park City, Sedona, and Bozeman. And I'm in their gallery in those 4 areas, and they have an artist who paints teepees. And it's like, man, I love portraying light, and I love contrast, and I love the Southwest, and I love that culture and the pride, and it's this really cold world, and they don't need a gated community. They don't need deadbolts, and you've got this space that's so beautiful and inviting. But I can't paint it because my buddy does it. And I finally decided that he's still my friend, even if I paint teepees, so.
Are you better than him?
Definitely better.
I think that's a really good question that you asked, but I think part of it is we're all influenced by what's around us, and sometimes that changes, and
But the important thing is that we all just use our own voice to express that thing, We all have a voice.
yeah.
I guess I feel like all of my paintings, I wouldn't have gotten the idea to paint it if it wasn't for someone. Someone out there is wanting a painting like this idea that popped in my head. I mean, I have taken razor blades to many canvases through the years when they don't work out. But, so to answer your question, I feel like every painting I do has a purpose, but my thing is just always, God, I hope I don't have to take these all home because I don't have room. It's more of an inventory problem. It's like, oh my gosh, because it might be 10 years before that person shows up for that painting. So I don't know. Yeah, there's always bills to pay, but somehow.
Well, we don't have starving artists here, like I said last week. We have successful artists, Chile. So there's a lot of art in a lot of homes around this country that came from here. So. You're all doing great. So, yeah, you're all awesome. I'm waiting for the wall of nudes. Yeah.
For what it's worth, they all found a home eventually.
Yeah.
I just had to sell them in
think I had
Chicago.
one.
They weren't getting purchased here. I had to take them, you know.
But to, like Becky said, we're all authentic. I mean, we're all inspired by the same thing. So we can't have just one person painting teepees or skies. And I agree with what Matt said. Like, you each have such your authentic signature style. Even if it's different subject matter, we can recognize the strokes or the palette or the composition. I mean, that's why you're here. And if I get an application from somebody that's got like all different styles, I'm like, okay. You don't know what you're doing yet, so apply again when you found your voice. And that voice can carry over different, you can have landscapes and figurative and different things, but there's a continuity in the body of work that is authentic and identifies who it is. Is that?
Yeah, I always feel like, people say, you're a professional artist? Yeah. It's not because I make a living on my art. For me, it's more that I have a brand that people recognize. That has jumped the leap and made me a professional artist. Because people will, go around and say, oh, I saw your piece at this restaurant or whatever. I knew it was you, and I walked up and it was you, and it was like from so long ago. And I just get really flattered by that. I mean, so the brands are alive and out there. We each have our brand, and that's what makes me feel like we're legit. Yeah. It's not about the money.
I think a lot of that just comes from painting a lot of paintings. Our sensibility, if you're to blur an edge in how far you push what paint and what size brush you want to pick up and where you would scrape and what you might layer there, you start finding just what speaks to you for a blurred edge. And then before you know it, you have a style. And if you really believe in it, someone else is going to connect with it as well. Yeah.
Yes, the person it's made for will show up. Yep. So, are there other questions? I think we're about at our time. Yeah, oh my goodness. Well, yes, we are at time, but so thank you. Thank all of you for being here. So Tina Roy, Matt Sievers, Becky Pashia. You can find Tina's work on this side.
Thanks, you guys.
About halfway. Matt Sievers is right around the corner. Becky Pashia just down the road. And for Martin Blundell, who couldn't be here, he's down to the right. So to all of our artists, thank you, and thank you all for being here.
Thank you.